So, for those of you that might not know about Morgan's Message, it is an organization that we started in July of 2020, 1 year after we tragically lost our daughter Morgan to suicide. Morgan was a member of the Duke University women's lacrosse team, and she suffered a pretty devastating injury in January of 2017, right before her sophomore season. She had gone from riding the bench to a starting position. She was pretty excited about this season. And unfortunately, as what happens with several athletes, it's a common occurrence, injuries in sport, but she blew out her knee pretty devastatingly. She suffered level 3 tears of her ACL, her MCL, and her meniscus. Had to be rebuilt. We were not speaking about career-ending injuries at this point. And if you knew Morgan, even if they had mentioned that, she would have told you were wrong, and would have fought back as she did. But this is when we believe that her mental health issues started to present itself about a year after that injury. But we lost her in July of 2019. And in the wake of that, we started an organization called Morgan's Message to try to destigmatize the conversations that are surrounding mental health among high school and college age student athletes. We work really hard to get to the kids to create a somewhat safe space, normalizing these conversations, which in turn will hopefully destigmatize this conversation. It is definitely what was Morgan's demise. She wrote a lot of things down, and the stigma was one of the biggest things that prevented her from reaching out and getting help. And it's not uncommon for student athletes to feel like they're all out on an island by themselves, doing their own thing, as you know. But we decided to start this organization to try to share stories of other student athletes. That's how it began. It was just supposed to be a podcast. Fast forward, we have over 3,800 student athlete ambassadors on high school and college campuses, on over 1,300 campuses in the UK, across the States, in Canada. And really, they're doing the work. They're normalizing these conversations. They're the ones that are going directly to the stigma that surrounds this. And we give them support and guidance and things like that. But that's basically the main pillar of Morgan's Message, is to get rid of that stigma so that these kids don't always feel like they're so alone. So in general, that's what we do. And how about you?
It's awesome work. Really, I'm grateful for it. We lost Tyler January 16th, 2018. He was also a collegiate athlete. He was a quarterback at Washington State University. And he was that kid, that just everybody loved. We always say that he wasn't the light in the room. He would take that light that was inside of him and just deflect it, and shine it on everybody else. Tyler had 2 brothers that were really his best friends. He loved his teammates. He loved his coaches. And we had no idea that he was struggling, not a sign at all. And one day he was gone, and he used something that he used a firearm, and he had never touched a gun before. He wasn't, he didn't even know how to use it. So we lost him, and we thought to ourselves, if our Tyler was struggling, who, had the world in his hand, how many other Tylers, how many other student athletes are out there struggling with their mental health, afraid to reach out and ask for help because of that stigma that you're talking about, and especially male student athletes. I mean, we've gone beyond, our focus really was college football initially and college athletes. But, many of them were just so afraid to reach out for help because they think they're going to be viewed as a weak person. They're no longer a leader. The team or the coaches can't depend on them. And that's so far, from really the truth. And so we started Hilinski's Hope just months after he passed. We don't want to lose another Tyler. We don't want another parent to, our family or our brother or sister, to go through what we deal with, every single day. I still, probably you do too, Donna. I always think he's going to walk through that door. I think like he's coming back. We used to kid ourselves a little bit, like, okay, we'll just pretend like that he joined the Peace Corps and he's away for 5 years and he's going to come back. And that's not the reality. And I've shared this with people before. Our 3 options really were, we are just going to ignore the fact that he passed by suicide. And I tell people that's not our truth, and that's not my personality. I was going to run away. I was just going to take my three other guys, and we were going to find an island to live and try to breathe again. Or we chose the third option, really, which is Hilinski's help to support the mental health of our student athletes, to beat down that stigma, raise awareness. And then really what we wanted to do beyond that was to create programs, resources. And that's what we've done with most of the donations, is create resources that support the mental health of our student athletes. So while we don't have ambassadors, what we do have is a very, very busy airline schedule where Mark and I just fly all over the country, meeting with student athletes and coaches, NADs, and having these really tough but critical and important conversations about mental health and how it's all connected. You're going to be a better athlete. You're going to be a happier person if you're taking care of your mental health as well as your physical health.
Right, right. Well, Kim, thank you so much. You started on this horrific journey, about a year before we did. I knew about Hilinski's Hope before we lost Morgan. So I'm thrilled with what you guys are doing. You're having a huge impact. I know that. I hear about it all the time. And I'm really proud to call you my friend. We're on the same journey. We come at it different ways, of course, but I don't think you can have too many people in this space. We've got to get to these kids. We've got to change the way mental health is talked about, seen, treated. I know that's our goal. It's funny we often say no one should lose their Morgan. So it's very similar to something that you just said about, you don't want anyone to lose their Tyler. It's a tough industry that we do. Sometimes I wish that we could shut down the whole system because we don't need us anymore, and that we've made such a huge cultural shift that there's nothing else for us to do. Maybe someday. It's a lofty goal, but wouldn't that be great if both of us met and we closed the books and we said,
right, no more mental health struggles. I mean, it would be wonderful, but I know that we've seen this on our journey. We were at it for about a year, almost two, and then COVID hit, right? And that just added to that plate of anxiety that our student athletes were already experiencing, right? So you throw in the COVID, where their sport is taken away from them, their school is taken away. And now, the NIL and the transfer portal and so many things are going on. And I don't think that our student athletes realize how many balls they're juggling, how they can do it. We don't, fans can be very cruel to our student athletes, right? And I don't think they get enough praise, enough thank you for what they do. They really do it for the fans, for our enjoyment, right? And of course it's their sport and they love it too. But I wish they were able to realize just how wonderful they are and how much more they mean to you, to me, to the world than what they're doing on that field, right? They're people first. And that is a struggle for them, for many of them, because they've been playing their sports since they were 4 or 5 years old. I mean, and that's another thing too, that connection. And when you talked about Morgan's injury and, possibly maybe we just had a son that Ryan, our youngest, tore his ACL, MCL, had the reconstruction surgery, is coming back. And I know that's been hard on him mentally, because there is such a connection between, I'm a lacrosse player. That's who I am. Yeah. I believe it's what you do, but it's really not.
It's not who you are.
And that's a hard thing for our student athletes to process. And I get it. I understand that.
I do too. Yeah, we tried to raise all three of our kids with a larger world than their sport. All three of them played a sport in college, and we tried constantly to keep their worlds large, but inevitably what they do was wrapped up in their identity. And lacrosse was a huge part of Morgan's identity. We know that. And that's actually why we went down the student athlete mental health route rather than just the general mental health route. It was just too broad. It was too big. It was too much of a bite to take. So we decided to put ourselves in Morgan's position and try to figure out what would have made a difference in Morgan's life. And we kept coming back to, she thought she was all alone. She had no idea that other people were suffering like she was. And that's when we came to the point of saying, we have to share these stories. These kids have to know they are not alone. We got to get rid of the stigma. And honestly, I don't know if you're seeing it, but the kids are making a difference.
Oh, yeah.
Their mission, their vision, their message is trickling up. And we get a lot of coaching staffs and athletic departments that are listening, but we also have a lot that aren't, and they're old school. And what worked in the past, they're going to continue to work the way they do. They're not evolving. We don't see that, but we're not giving up either, because we are making strides. And these kids, their voices, when they get together, are so much louder than our adult voices could be. So we're just kind of trying to empower them to do their work, and they're having fun with it, but they're also so impactful in their communities. We just returned from a campus for a 2-day session, and we met with all the freshmen and transfer students. We met with senior staff. We met with the coaching staff. And I mean, it's working. Not necessarily what we're doing per se, but the topic of mental health and the importance of it among these student athletes is being heard.
Yeah.
And I agree with you. I think a lot of it had to do with the pandemic. They were forced to face what these challenges these kids were dealing with. So
yeah, it is a lot. When we go out, we do our Tyler Talks, is what we call them, and we share. Tyler didn't leave a note. We don't know why he left. We really don't. And so I want to be able to tell these student athletes, this is what we found out. This is why Tyler left. And if you don't do these things, you're not going to struggle. But I don't know the answer. We have breadcrumbs. And so when we go out and we share our Tyler Talks, and we've always said from the very beginning, we're going to be as transparent as we can. We're going to share everything that we know in the hopes that it will help someone. But what we've learned is, as we do these talks, we like every student athlete on campus to be there. We want every coach to be there and his staff. The AD needs to be there as well. And what that does, that impact, Joe, the swimmer, is sitting, next to Nancy, the golfer, and right over there is the AD, and their coaches are right behind them. And what it says to those student athletes is, yeah, this is important to me. And we're taking 2 hours out of our day to help you and to know that your mental health matters. And so I have to say, I do see some of the old school thinking there, but I think that pendulum is swinging. I think it's truly going the other way, because these coaches and these ADs, they understand the significance of what they need to do to support the complete student athlete that they have on campus.
Awesome. That's all we can hope for, right?
Right.
So if student athletes or parents or something are listening to us chat right now, how can they get involved with Hilinski's Hope? Like, what can they do to help you or to be part of your organization?
There's a bunch of different ways. We did start something. This is our 4th season. We started it out as College Football Mental Health Week. It was, like 20 some schools, mostly SEC schools and schools that were tied into Tyler. And it was this week that actually the very first year started on the 3rd of October, ended on the 10th, which is World Mental Health Day. And what we did is we just created these boxes of hope, helmet decals, lapel pins, cheer bows, hair ties, and our bands, and we sent them out to universities. We just rebranded the week as Student Athlete Mental Health Week. We're, I think, close to maybe 200 universities that are joining this year, and it's all sports. It's not just football, and it's not just women's swim, and so it's a week that we let our student athletes know that we see them, we appreciate them, we understand their grind, and they've got to take care of their mental health. And what these students can do, what these alumni from certain campuses can do, is reach out to their campus and say, we want to be a part of this week. We want to help support it. It's free. We fund it. We send out these boxes, and I think the really important thing is the conversations that take place around the week and how the campuses make that week their own, what they actually do. And I know that your ambassadors have reached out to us and say, okay, we want to bring Student Athlete Mental Health Week to Keene State. And so I think the fact that you and I, our organizations, are doing different things, we do come together, right? And support one another in different ways, which I think is very, very important, because it's, there can be overlap, and honestly, there can never be enough overlap, if you ask me. But we're coming at it hard and at a different angle than you. And the way we do that, I think, just like builds this momentum that really lets our student athletes know, and the people that are surrounding them, that their mental health matters. So they can reach out. They can be a part of Student Athlete Mental Health Week. We started something 2019, the 3 for 3 challenge. I know you guys started the 9 for 9. I either run 3 marathons a month in May, or I climb 3 mountains or whatever. That's why I got to go. That's why I got to be busy. I can't sit still. And you and I are going to have to talk after this conversation, and you're going to have to tell me how to sit still, because sitting in my thoughts it's tough. I never really saw the police report. I didn't see the pictures. I didn't see anything like that. But at night when I go to bed, I have to will myself to. Tyler killed himself in a closet. I have to will myself, Kim, don't go into the closet. Don't imagine what you think is there. Go to sleep. And in the morning, the first thing I think of is this my reality? Is he really gone?
I do it every morning.
Every single day. And so for parents, I would say to them, when we get asked this question a lot, what do we do? How do we stop this? And I remember when we were on the Today Show together, and your husband said something that has stayed with me. He said, after work at the end of the day, I liked that we all came and we sat around the dinner table and we had conversations. And we always had conversations too, but I can tell you this, we didn't have conversations about mental health. We just didn't, because we didn't see, they seemed happy. All our 3 boys were collegiate athletes, all, quarterbacks. And they loved their sport. They loved their game. They loved their school. It didn't seem like it was a necessary part. And I'm absolutely wrong. It should have been part of our conversations. So I would tell parents, have those conversations. They're tough to have. But what you face if you're not having them is much tougher. And if you have a feeling in your gut, we know our children, right? If you have a feeling maybe that something is not right, something is a little off, don't be afraid to speak up and ask about it. And people think all the time, if I ask that question, am I really putting those thoughts in my child's head? And the opposite is so true. You're not. And you know that. Yeah.
So yeah, studies have shown it absolutely is not creating the thought. It actually makes them feel better that their thoughts are not so far out there.
That's so right.
And that, okay, this is an illness, or this is a situation, but it's not so crazy and it's not so scary, kind of de-scarify it. So, okay. Yeah. See, we just started. So our campus ambassador program obviously was created for the student athletes themselves. So obviously, we don't have a limit or anything like that. So on our website lists all the schools that we have chapters. You could check, and students can check and see if they already have a chapter, but apply to be an ambassador. It's just kind of a leader on the campus, but we have several advocates that actually participate in the activities that these ambassadors put on campuses. So a lot of people can just get involved being an advocate, kind of supporting their local chapter on a high school or college campus. But a couple of months ago, we had so much feedback from parents, mental health professionals, pro athletes, asking how can they get involved. And we were real careful to say, our ambassador program is for student athletes, and we don't ask them to do this. They're 100% volunteer. So coaches, please don't ask your students to do it. Parents, please don't ask your children to do this. If you want to lead them to our website and get more information, that's great. But we really want them to come to us on their own because they have a personal reason why they want to be an advocate or an ambassador. But we recently opened up or started a new arm called the AtLarge Ambassador Program, which is similar to the Campus Ambassador Program, but it is anyone that is not a current student athlete. So that means parents, that means mental health professionals, that means professional athletes. Because what we're trying to do is they want to know how they can bring the message of Morgan's message to their workforce, their communities, their professional teams, things like that. So it's a culture change in their communities that they're trying to make happen. And so it's growing faster than our campus ambassador program did. So parents can get involved that way. Coaches can get involved that way. And we're really excited about it because their voices will also spread through their communities, which is a whole other level than the high school and college athletes. So you and I are doing the same thing. We're just trying to spread this message far and wide so that at a global level, this whole mental health discussion is no different than talking about a bum knee or a bum shoulder.
To be on the same level, right? On par with how we take care of, I tell people all the time, we taught our kids, since they were babies, right? This is how you take care of your body physically. We have to make sure that we teach our kids how to take care of their mental health as well. And so we started just recently, we created something called mental health modules. And they just basically explain, what mental health is, what therapy is, what to expect, different. What is stigma? They don't even know what the definition of stigma is really. Right. So we're bringing them to the whole entire state of Alabama. And these modules, we basically recreated them for students because states, governments, superintendents, right? They're like, well, I love what you're doing for our student athletes, but I got to do it for my students too. So Alabama is bringing them our modules into their high schools. And this is the first year that we're starting that. And I'm grateful to do it. I always thought that my space was just, in the student athlete lane, but as you know, it's better to go out of your lane. Sometimes you touch more people. The North Carolina governor said, we have something we created too. It's called Game Plan. And it's basically how to unpack a Tyler talk. It's for the mental health professionals on campus. So the governor there said, we want to bring Game Plan and your mental health modules to all of our state colleges. So that's going in there in North Carolina. And I wish I could create more and add more and touch more. Because it's it's just so needed, but because I can't be still, maybe there will be more that's happening later. I always feel like I told my husband in the very beginning, it's like we're performing brain surgery, but not really knowing how to do it. And I just wanted to do it right away. And so I had to take a little step back in the beginning because I just wanted to solve the problem. And then I realized that it's going to take a while to be solved. But I think groups like ours, coming together to support the mental health of our student athletes is really going to change things. And it's humbling. And I also tell people all the time, Tyler, sweet kid, I think he'd be proud of the work that we're doing, but I think he'd also be embarrassed, kind of like an, aw, shucks, this is great. And I love that you're doing Tyler Talks, and I love, maybe that people are being helped with it. But I do think both of our children would be proud of what we're trying to do in their name and to honor them.
I do too. Morgan was a very fiercely loyal friend, was always there for other people. Stories came out of the woodwork, stories I didn't know about of when she was there for others. Which makes it just so ironic that she was aware of others' mental health struggles, but yet she still felt that no one would ever understand. So I guess she just thought hers was the most extreme and everyone else was just would never understand, no matter how much they had suffered. So as you know, mental illness, it tells you lies. It tells you you're a burden. It tells you that people, once they get over the grieving process, they're going to be fine. So just it just tells you a lot of lies. We often get the question asked from student athletes of, what do I do if I think someone I know is struggling, because these kids are trying our education program, which the term is used interchangeably with their ambassador program. So it really is our education program. So we try to put education in the hands of these kids so that they can spread it to their peers. We're trying to be the bridge between someone that might be struggling and then someone that's in real crisis and needs professional help. We're trying to be that middle ground so that they don't get to the point where they need professional help because they're in real crisis.
Yeah.
So they often ask, what can we do if we have a teammate or a friend that seems like they're struggling? And so some of the things we tell them to do is, well, first of all, figure out what your local resources are on campus. A lot of people don't know what they are.
Mm-hmm.
Have it handy just in case. What goes along with that also, find someone that you trust, whether it's a counselor, whether it's a teacher, a professor, a friend, someone that if you felt someone was struggling more than just needing an ear to listen, you could call that person and then get some advice on what to do next.
Yeah.
So we tell them to kind of pack their toolbox with stuff like that. But otherwise, directly, we teach them to practice being a really good listener, because a lot of times when people are struggling, they just want to know that their voices are being heard in a non-judgmental way, that someone's not going to try to fix their problem. You know, I was a fixer. You told me your problem and I was going to find a solution. I've tried really hard to not be that person anymore, because I understand that some people don't want that. They don't need that. They just need to vent. So I explain that to the kids, to try practice being a really good, empathetic, non-judgmental listener.
Yeah.
And it's okay to say, I don't know how you feel, but I'm more than willing to try to understand. Explain to me more of what you're going through.
Absolutely.
The other thing that I think is really helpful for young people as well as adults, rather than kind of coming off as judging, but you notice something's off, say that. Say, I notice that you skipped class this week and you usually don't skip class. Is everything okay?
Right.
I noticed you were late to practice twice this week. You are like Johnny on the spot. What's going on? Do you want to talk about it? They call them I statements. Just reflect back what you have observed and noticed. And it really lays the groundwork for these kids to feel safe that they can answer that question. And they might not at first. They might say, I'm fine, no problem. But then we say, circle back the next day. Don't just take their word for it. If your gut is telling you something's off, there could be something off. So you just be persistent, but in a really gentle, non-judgmental way.
Yeah.
So I don't know how you guys do it with your groups.
That exactly like that, and we follow that up with it's better to reach out to somebody, you know, who you think needs it and maybe doesn't, than not reach out to that person, right, and be quiet. And you said, you used a word, burden, and I can tell you, we were at just with a football team in Alabama, and this was less than a year ago. We met with the team. You know, the players are always great. They always come up, hug, you know, share their stories. And packing our things up after we did all that, and coach runs in and says, Mark and Kim, I need you to come into this room and sit with me and a player. So we walk into this room. There's a player, gigantic linebacker, just gigantic, and his position coach. They are crying just unbelievably hard. And so the player tells us, I've been struggling with my mental health for so long, and the word you used, but I didn't want to be a burden to anyone. So I didn't reach out and ask for help. That day, they had him in counseling. They called his parents. They had a conversation with him. He went home for the weekend, and we keep in touch with him. And he's doing better, you know. And the fact that he said he just didn't want to be a burden hurt so much. Tyler, his best friend on the team, wide receiver, and roommates, CJ Dimry, shared the story with us, and he knows that we share it in our Tyler talks. But after Tyler died, he died in the state of Washington. We lived in Southern California. They flew the team down for the memorial. And at the memorial, CJ, his dad played in the league for a few years too, a football player. He asked Mark, he said, did you know I lost my mom, my birth mom, when I was 5 years old, and we knew that, but the dad had remarried, and he said, but I've been going to counseling since I was a young kid, and I also don't think you know that I didn't have a car in Pullman, and my husband said, yeah, I think I knew that because Tyler would drive you around a lot, and he said Tyler would drive me to my counseling appointments. Once a week, once a month, he would drive me to my counseling appointment, on campus, drop me off, go get some food, come back, wait in the car. And, CJ would get in. Sometimes they talk about what happened at the appointment. Sometimes they talk about, their girlfriend, their boyfriend, classes, football. But it was Tyler bringing him to his appointment, and CJ ended that conversation with my husband. He was just 100 feet. He was 100 feet from getting help, and he knew it was helping me. Why couldn't he say, hey, CJ, I need to see, I'm struggling. I need to see a counselor too. And that's tough, because I think that stigma that we're talking about, Tyler was going to be the guy next year. He was going to be that quarterback on that team. And he played in some pretty remarkable games before that. But I do think either he just didn't know how to ask for help. Maybe he didn't even realize that he was struggling. And the fact that he was just 100 feet away from that door and asking for help just really haunts me a lot. And I don't want another student athlete to have to go through that. It shouldn't.
No, you're absolutely right. I often wonder, why is there so much? Well, I know why. It's the stigma again. That word just keeps, I can't avoid it. Someday I want to equalize the treatment and the way it's spoken about, mental and physical health. Mm-hmm. There is absolutely no shame or embarrassment when someone gets injured physically. I would love to dream of the day where no one is ashamed or embarrassed for having a mental health struggle. Right. I can't even imagine a world like that, but I have to, because that is the only way that we're really going to see a difference, and a real dent into the numbers that we all are so well aware of. But equalizing the treatment, it starts with the stigma, of course, but I mean, gosh, can you even imagine? Mm-hmm. No shame in saying, man, I'm not doing well.
Right.
I think I need to go make an appointment with the counselor on campus, as casually as that. The other thing is, I don't know if you run into this. It hurts my ears when I hear it, but there are still so many people that add to the stigmatization of mental health by using the term committed suicide.
We don't use that word.
It flabbergasts me that is still used. It's died by suicide or death by suicide. You would never accuse someone of committing cancer.
That's exactly what we say. I lost my dad to cancer, my mom to ALS. And right, they got a disease. They got ill. They passed by those diseases, and you get a mental health disease, right? And that's nothing to be ashamed of at all. It was another big football team on the West Coast, and we were in a Tyler talk, and one of the players broke down. Another big guy, I think it was a lineman, and head coach was there too. So we stopped. It was beautiful, Donna. Every player came over and hugged on him. Head coach went over and hugged on him. And it was just like, they gathered around to support him. And I think the same would be true if he got cancer, sadly, right? We would rally around that player. Mark always says we'd hold bake sales. We'd do whatever to make sure that person would be okay physically. We have to rally the same way around someone if they have a mental health struggle. And, using that word committed, it used to be a crime, right? It used to be a crime to pass by suicide, which doesn't make any sense to me, but you're right. We don't say that word anymore. Well, never really said it anyway, but.
Right. But it does amaze me how I still hear it.
Mm-hmm.
If anyone could take anything away from all of our talks, right, at least change your verbiage on that one.
Yeah. And it's probably they grew up, with that verbiage, right? But that doesn't give you an out. That doesn't give you a pass. You just got to change it. And well, I have a friend, she lost her husband to suicide, older, like in his 40s, but her father-in-law said, let's just tell everybody that he had a heart attack.
There's shame.
Yeah. And that's the shame and embarrassment. And I remember thinking, well, before I even knew that Tyler passed by suicide, ESPN had already reported that he did. Now, I would have never decided not to report it as that, right? But it was already out there. And I'm glad that it was already out there, because people need to know that our athletes are struggling. Now, struggling doesn't, and the suicidal ideation, that's very far over here. And that's where Tyler was, that's where Morgan was. But not everybody who struggles with their mental health, thank goodness, is not going to swing all the other way. But those days of those mental health struggles have to be so dark, and hard and difficult that I don't even want them to struggle with those tough hours and those tough days. And we have to somehow put an end to that, and make sure that these people are reaching out and asking for help. It's just so important. Yeah.
I often get asked the question, if we had a magic wand and you waved it, what would the result be? If we could give you a magic wand, Kim, what would be your absolute perfect hope, dream that magic wand would make come true, short of the obvious of bringing back our kids?
Oh, I know. Yeah. I always think I can bring back my kid. I don't know. Or I always think he's actually in a parallel universe. He's out there somewhere, and I will see him again someday.
I will too.
I think, of course, I would want to, wave that wand and take away every illness that there is out there. That's not possible. I think that's science, that why do babies die? Why were our sweet children, taken from us? Why couldn't I save Tyler? Why didn't I know he was struggling? But I think my wave would be, to let people know, and it's not a cliche, but that it is okay to struggle. And that if you are struggling, reach out and ask for help. Of course, I'd want to erase every disease, and make that not happen. I'd want to make us physically and mentally healthy. But my wave would be, you reach out, you ask for help. You get cancer, you go to an oncologist. You have a mental health struggle, you go see a mental health professional. And I would want it to be simple, right?
Yeah.
Simple thing.
Yeah. Easy to do as well.
Yeah. Right. So, Donna, what's next on your list? I know this is amazing to me. You had two of your children got married within the last year.
Yeah, it's been crazy. Yes, my daughter, Aberly, Morgan was a twin, so it's her twin sister got married. Actually, they just had their first anniversary on Sunday. Aww. And then my son, who's 2 years older than Morgan and Aberly, got married on 9/9. Yeah, nine is our big number. Morgan's number was number 9 at Duke, so it means a lot to us. So when they were looking at the calendar for a wedding date, they couldn't deny it. They're like, we got to pick. So yeah, so it's great. I mean, yes, they found incredible people. They are trying really hard to move on. I don't know what it's like to be a twin and to lose my twin. And I don't pretend to know. But Aberly is trying. She's really making some great progress. She's got a great support system aside, behind her. So she'll be okay. But her life definitely shifted. What her original plans were are no longer in the plans. So she's got a new path that she's trying to navigate.
And that navigation is tough. Our other two, Kelly is our oldest. He's 18 months, not a twin, but 18 months older than Tyler. They never had play dates. They had each other, right? Yeah. So they were each other's best friend and brothers. And they have struggled a lot. They have struggled a lot. We went through counseling, group counseling, individual counseling. I just recently started seeing a psychiatrist. I wasn't sleeping. It would be 4 a.m. and I was still up. Because those thoughts in your head, like, what did I not see? What did I miss? And this is 5.5 years later. I'm going to be 90 years old, I think, and still, if I live that long, and still going through this process every day in my brain. But I'm 60, and I have a foundation, that has given me strength over the years. My two are young, and I wonder how they're going to navigate life without their brother.
Right.
What has happened is that we have become so much closer as a family unit. We moved to South Carolina when Ryan played for the Gamecocks, and then he transferred to Northwestern. So we have a small apartment up here in Evanston. Ryan has a place across the street with his teammates. He's at our place more than he is there. Kelly, our oldest son, moved to South Carolina too, and he's just one zip code away. And I just think that I think Tyler would want it that way. I think he would want us to be together all the time. We find strength, in our family connection, and just really relying on each other to smile. It took me a while to laugh, to sing along with the song on the radio. I think it was like a couple of years. And all of a sudden I hear this voice in my car, and I'm by myself, and it's my voice singing to one of my 70s tunes, and I thought, where did that come from? And so it's not that, we deserve to be happy. My children deserve to have happy, full lives. It's just sometimes, how do you do that when that big part of your life is missing? And I do think the work that we're doing fulfills some of that, that void, that emptiness that I have inside of me, because I get to say his name, 100 times a day. I write thank you cards all the time. I think his name is in it 3 times, and 3 is an important number for us. So it's just, it's how we navigate this path that we never, ever thought we were going to be on. I mean, to me, Mark always says the Hilinskis were at 100% the day before Tyler died. 100%. Everything was so good. And now we're certainly not at 100%, right?
No.
Yeah. So
we never will be.
I'm going to see you soon in person. I think in November, right? In Indy.
Yes, that's right. Absolutely. I was thinking at the end of this month, and we can't do that. But yes, absolutely. We're going out there. I'd love to get together with you guys, maybe without the work stuff.
That that it's going to come up in our conversation. But
of course.
Of
course. Well, it's awesome to talk to you, Kim. It's great to see you. Anything Morgan's Message can do, or me personally, Kurt personally, we are 100% what you're doing. We're so grateful for what you're doing. Every student that you're touching just means one more student that you're touching. It's awesome.
And right back at you. It's hard work, right? It's emotional work. It's tough. I don't think there's a day that I haven't cried, or the tears just coming down. They tell you have these stages of grief, right, that you go through. I skip the stage of being mad. They say you get mad at the person that left you. I've never been mad at Tyler. Mostly I'm just sad that, I didn't get to watch him grow up. I didn't get to watch him fulfill his dreams and, get married and have babies and hear his voice as he gets older. But, he's with me, and I know Morgan is with you too. And I think they're helping us shine a light on something that needs a heavy, heavy light.
I'm sorry. I have to give her a hug. I heard she's good. I'm sorry. I don't mean to interrupt, but
oh my God, it's great to see you.
Miss Morgan, is that okay if I called you Miss Morgan?
That's Dona.
Miss Dona. Sorry. Okay.
Yeah, that's okay. Yeah, absolutely. Oh, it's good to see you.
My apologies. Anyway.
Okay. How are you supposed to know?
It's okay. I've heard plenty of amazing things about you guys. So. Yes, ma'am.
Wow.
Sorry. Love you.
It's great to see you.
Yes, ma'am.
So sweet. That's how we always will be. It's just always going to be that way. Just recently though, we started laughing about Tyler's stories. Do you remember when he did that? So it took a while to do that. So they live on through our storytelling and the work that we're doing. And I always say grateful, thankful. There's just not enough words. So maybe that's my next thing. That's my wand thing. I'm going to create a word that is stronger than say thankful and grateful, because I am that for you and what you're doing, and the impact that you are making on so many lives. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah.
Got to keep on, keeping on, getting on.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's not easy. I never ever thought my life would be doing what I'm doing now, but
No.
I often say, if you knew Morgan, this wouldn't surprise you a bit.
Oh.
Their personalities just kind of, as you know, with Tyler, which just made us not just fade off into the sunset.
Oh no. Although someday my island, not my second choice, I would say someday I'm going to take them and we are going to run away to that island.
I am too.
In the sand and have cocktails the rest of my life.
I love it. I love it. Well, we can dream, right?
Yeah. Yeah. All right.
All right. Well, thanks, Kim. It was so great to talk to you.
Yeah. Take care, and I'll see you in a couple months.
You got it.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.